Okay, so are you ready to dive into something really unique today?
Yeah, lay it on me.
It's called the Book of the Lavens.
Okay.
Now, when you hear that title,
Yeah.
don't go picturing like ancient scrolls
Right.
or golden plates or anything. It's a totally new work that just got published.
Oh, wow.
And it's causing like a major buzz.
Interesting.
Think historical fiction with a spiritual twist, you know?
Okay.
It basically expands on those familiar stories from the Book of Mormon,
Mm.
but in a way you've probably never encountered before.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, what's really fascinating is that the Book of the Lavens
Right.
doesn't claim to be like divinely revealed in the
Right.
traditional sense, you know?
Oh, okay.
The author calls it a pseudepigraphic midrash.
Pseudepigraphic midrash? That's a mouthful.
It is, right.
So what does that even mean?
It basically means it's a super creative interpretation
Okay.
that builds on like the existing scriptures.
Right.
Specifically, 3rd and 4th Nephi.
Ah, okay.
So it's like a thought experiment
Interesting.
exploring what might have happened
Yeah,
in Nephite society,
right.
but through a totally different lens.
I see. So not claiming to be a literal historical account,
Right, exactly.
more like a reimagining of events.
Exactly. And what makes this book even more fascinating
Okay.
is the author's goal to tackle these really contemporary issues.
Mm.
You know, like the stuff that we're all grappling with today.
Yeah, like what?
Things like income inequality
Right.
and the experiences of the LGBTQ plus community.
Mm.
It's pretty bold to address these themes
Yep.
within like a scriptural context.
It is.
Yeah.
So are they suggesting these things are like actually in the Book of Mormon?
Not exactly. It's
Yeah.
more about like using these ancient stories
Wow.
as a framework to explore
Right.
modern day issues
Got it.
and to offer a different perspective, you know.
Makes sense.
It's like this whole new way of looking at familiar narratives.
I'm definitely curious to hear more.
Okay, so the book centers around this group called the Lavens.
The Lavens.
Yeah, and they end up being exiled.
Exile?
Yeah, like kicked out from the main Nephite tribes.
Mm.
And get this, all the main characters,
Uh-huh.
like the disciples chosen by Christ in this version of the story,
Okay.
they'd all be considered queer today.
Wow. That's fascinating. So it's like a whole new perspective on these familiar stories.
Totally.
I'm really starting to see why this book is causing such a stir.
Right. And it raises all sorts of questions about how we interpret
Absolutely.
those texts
Right.
and the diversity of human experience.
Yeah, and how those things intersect, right?
Totally. All right, so let's dig into what actually leads to the Lavens' exile.
Okay, let's do it.
The book starts 30 years after Christ's visit,
Okay.
and it describes Zarahemla.
Mm-hmm.
But the Zarahemla depicted here isn't this peaceful, perfect society,
Yep.
you know? Instead, it's full of economic injustice.
Interesting. So they're drawing parallels to modern day problems.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Smart.
It's like the author is holding up a mirror
Yeah.
to our own society
Right.
and showing us how these ancient stories
Mm-hmm.
can still be relevant today.
I like that.
So the Zarahemla in the Book of the Lavens has this huge wealth disparity.
Okay, so like a big gap between the rich and the poor.
Huge.
Got it.
You see, like, the elite living in these opulent mansions,
Mm.
while the laborers are struggling to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Their wages are barely enough to feed their families.
That's rough.
It's a scenario that feels way too familiar
Yeah.
if you look at the world today.
Sadly, you're right.
Okay, so how does this economic injustice actually play out in the story?
Well, that's where we meet Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, okay.
Yeah, she's a Laven woman who receives this powerful vision.
What kind of vision? Like a dream or something?
Yeah, but like a very vivid, real experience.
Oh.
Like she actually feels it in her body.
Gotcha.
So she finds herself in this field,
Okay,
same kind of field where she works every day,
right.
toiling away.
Uh-huh.
And this divine figure appears
Okay.
and urges her to tend to the field.
Interesting.
But she pushes back, you know?
Like, argues with the divine figure.
Yeah, she's like, I'm already exhausted from working in the fields all day,
Right.
and I still go to bed hungry.
Makes sense. So what does this figure say to that?
Well, the figure clarifies that the harvest isn't about literal crops.
Oh, I see.
It's about tending to the souls of the people,
Uh-huh.
especially the laborers who are suffering alongside her.
That's deep.
It is, right?
So it's like she's being called to a different kind of labor.
Exactly.
So what does Elizabeth do with this vision?
Well, she takes it to heart, you know.
Yeah.
She becomes a voice for those who are being silenced.
Okay, so like an activist.
Yeah, you could say that.
So how does that play out?
She starts speaking out against the exploitation.
Right.
You know, challenging the wealthy elite. And their system that keeps the laborers divided.
Then powerless.
Yeah, she's like, this economic system is unjust.
Oh.
The wealth needs to be redistributed so that everyone can thrive.
It's like she's a labor organizer, but with a spiritual foundation.
That is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
She's saying that true spirituality can't exist without economic justice.
I love that. So is her message well received? Do people listen?
It definitely resonates with the other laborers.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, they're tired of being exploited, you know.
Right.
They're ready for change.
So Elizabeth is planting these seeds of change.
She is.
Challenging the status quo.
Totally.
Are there others who join her in this movement?
Yes. And this is where we meet Johiza.
Johiza, okay.
Yeah, she's a priest.
A priest, okay.
But not a Lavin herself.
Got it.
But she has this deep connection to the Lavin community. And she sees the prejudice they face. And what's really striking about Johiza is that she challenges the religious establishment itself.
Whoa, what do you mean? Like she's questioning their doctrines?
Not exactly the doctrines, but rather how they're being applied, you know?
Okay.
Like she sees this hypocrisy within the church.
What kind of hypocrisy?
Well, she observes how the leaders preach love and acceptance.
Right.
But then they turn a blind eye to the suffering of the Lavens. They even exclude them from positions of authority within the church.
So it's not just economic exploitation. There's also a social and religious exclusion happening here.
Exactly. And Johiza, being a priest, has a platform to speak out against it.
So what does she do? Does she give a sermon or something?
She does. And it's power.
Okay, tell me more. What does she say?
Well, she directly calls out the hypocrisy of the leaders, accusing them of twisting religious principles to justify their cruelty.
Do you have a sense of what that sermon sounded like?
Yeah, the book quotes a part of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she says to the leaders, you profess to lead a church founded upon love and acceptance, yet your deeds are full of deceit and hypocrisy.
Wow.
You have cast out those who do not conform to your narrow interpretations. And in doing so, you have denied the very God you claim to serve.
She's not holding back. So we've got Elizora fighting for economic justice.
Right.
And Johiza calling out religious hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Two powerful women challenging the system from different angles. So how did the authorities react to this?
Well, it definitely caused quite a stir.
I bet. They were shaking things up.
They were.
So how did those in power respond?
Well, those in positions of authority, especially this wealthy and influential guy named Jacob.
Jacob, okay.
They felt threatened by Elizabeth and Johiza.
Right, because they were exposing the injustices of their society.
Exactly. And they knew they couldn't legally punish them for speaking out, so they had to get creative.
Oh, no, that doesn't sound good. What did they do?
They resorted to some pretty underhanded tactics.
Like what?
Well, under the cover of darkness, they had Elizabeth, Johiza, and another Laven woman named Raphael abducted and imprisoned.
Wait, Raphael? Who's that? We haven't heard about her yet.
Oh, you're right. Raphael's story is really interesting.
Okay.
She was this beloved teacher and spiritual leader in the Laven community.
Okay.
Known for her wisdom and compassion, you know.
Yeah.
But she was removed from her position in the priesthood just because of her identity.
So, like, discrimination.
Exactly. She didn't conform to their rigid norms of what a religious leader should be.
That's awful. So they snatch up these three women, throw them in prison. What happens next?
They're held captive in this dungeon.
Oh, no.
Denied food and water and subjected to psychological torture.
That's horrible. What were they hoping to accomplish?
Jacob actually tries to bargain with them.
Okay.
Offering them freedom if they recant their messages and stay silent.
So basically, shut up and we'll let you go. Did it work? Did they take the deal?
Absolutely not. These women were totally unwavering in their convictions.
Good for them.
They refused to compromise their integrity.
Yeah.
Even in the face of such hardship.
It sounds like they were willing to die for what they believed in.
Sadly, that's exactly what happened.
Oh, no.
They died in that dungeon, refusing to back down from their message of justice and equality.
That's heartbreaking. What happened to their captors? Did they face any justice?
There was an attempt at a trial.
Okay.
But things escalated pretty quickly.
How so?
The relatives of those who were responsible for the women's deaths were furious. You know, they felt like Their family members were being unfairly targeted.
Right, so they weren't about to let them be punished. What did they do?
They staged a full-blown insurrection.
Whoa, like a violent uprising against the government.
Against everyone who opposed them, yeah.
Wow, that's intense. What happened?
They assassinated the chief judge, Luconius the Younger.
Oh, wow.
And they tried to install Jacob as king.
So it's like complete chaos erupts.
Yeah, it was total chaos.
And what happens to the Lavens in all of this?
Well, amidst all this upheaval,
right,
they find themselves completely ostracized.
Like scapegoated.
Totally. The other tribes blame them for the unrest.
Even though it was Jacob and his followers who started the violence.
Exactly. It's like they're looking for someone to blame.
Yeah.
And the Lavens are the easy target.
So they're facing persecution.
Yeah.
They lost their leaders.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to them then?
Well, they do what resilient communities often do.
Okay.
They adapt.
Okay.
They come together, form their own tribe,
okay,
the Lavenites,
okay,
and set out to establish their own Zion.
So like their own safe haven, place where they can live freely according to their beliefs.
Exactly. It's a powerful testament to the human spirit, you know.
It really is. But I have a feeling their troubles weren't over just yet, right?
You're right. The Book of the Lavens then shifts its focus to Jonas, a young Laven man whose story illustrates the prejudice they continue to face.
Okay, let's hear about Jonas. What makes his story so significant?
Well, Jonas is the son of Nephi and Timothy.
Nephi and Timothy, okay.
They're a loving couple.
Okay.
But because of, societal prejudice,
right,
they had to conceal their true relationship as a marriage.
So they had to pretend to be just friends or brothers or something.
Exactly.
It's the only way they could live together without facing persecution.
Exactly. It was a matter of survival,
Wow, that's heartbreaking. So what role does Jonas play in the story?
Well, it's actually Jonas's father, Nephi, who becomes a central figure at this point.
What does Nephi do?
He gives this incredible speech to the Nephites.
So he's confronting them directly.
Yeah, he's calling them out on their hypocrisy.
That's bold.
He's condemning the violence against Lavens.
Okay.
And he's demanding their liberation.
What does he say?
Well, he talks about how Lavens are constantly told to hide who they are.
Right, to conform to societal expectations.
Exactly. But he urges them to embrace their identity.
Yeah.
To live authentically, no matter the cost.
It's like a call to live openly and honestly despite the pressure to conform.
It is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't stop there.
Yeah. What else does he say?
He challenges the people who just stay silent in the face of injustice.
Oh, wow, the bystanders.
Yeah.
He's calling them out, too.
Yeah, he says, and I quote,
okay,
silence, when the trumpet of justice sounds, becomes a chain of oppression.
Whoa, that's powerful. But I'm guessing this powerful speech doesn't exactly win over the hearts and minds of those who hate the Lavens?
Unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah.
Nephi faces ridicule, even violence, for speaking out.
So even though the Lavens have their own community,
yeah,
they're still facing persecution from the outside world.
Yeah, the hatred runs deep, unfortunately.
So does their Zion remain a safe haven?
That's where things get even more intense.
Oh no, what happens?
Nephi learns about this horrifying plot through a vision.
Okay, what's the plot?
The Jacobites, remember them?
Yeah, the group who tried to take over after the assassination.
Yeah, exactly. They're planning to exterminate the Lavens.
What? Oh.
They're going to burn them all alive.
Oh my God, that's horrific.
It's
like a terrifying echo of the persecution they've already faced.
Exactly. And just like in those stories of, Lehi fleeing Jerusalem in the Book of Mormon.
Right.
Nephi realizes he has to act quickly to save his people.
So they're on the run again. Do they manage to escape?
They do.
Okay.
But not without tragedy.
Oh no, what happens?
During a confrontation with the Jacobites,
right,
Nephi's husband, Timothy, is killed.
Oh no, not Timothy.
It's a devastating loss, for Nephi and for the whole Lavenite community.
I can imagine. So how do they respond?
Well, many are consumed with grief and rage.
Right.
Ready to fight back.
Yeah.
With vengeance. But Nephi, even in his own pain, steps in.
Wow.
And gives this really powerful sermon.
What does he say?
About the futility of violence.
He's like a modern-day Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. preaching nonviolence even after this unimaginable loss.
It's a remarkable moment in the book.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And then something extraordinary happens.
What happens?
Nephi, overcome with grief, approaches Timothy's body, and he resurrects him.
Wait, what? He brings Timothy back to life.
He does.
Oh, wow.
It's this incredible display of divine power
Right.
that leaves both the Lavenites and the Jacobites in shock.
That's definitely a turning point in the story. So what happens after this miracle?
Even though Nephi has shown he has this extraordinary power, he doesn't seek revenge.
Wow, that's incredible.
Instead, he heals both Lavenite and Jacobite wounded.
No way.
Yeah, and he offers a message of repentance to those who try to destroy his people.
So even after all they've been through, the Lavens choose peace. It's a powerful message about forgiveness and resisting that cycle of violence.
It really is.
So what happens to the Lavens then? Do they stay in their Zion?
Well, with Timothy resurrected
Yeah.
and the Jacobite threat seemingly neutralized,
Right.
they depart once again.
Where do they go?
They go in search of a new safe haven,
Okay.
a place where they can rebuild their lives
Uh-huh.
and continue their journey of faith.
What an incredible story.
It is, right?
It's about resilience and faith
Mhm.
and the power of love to overcome even the most unimaginable obstacles.
Exactly.
But I have a feeling the Book of the Lavens doesn't end there, does it?
Oh, not at all. The story takes us on a spiritual deep dive next.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Where do we go from here?
We meet Shemnon.
Shemnon.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a Laven woman who yearns for this deeper understanding of the divine, you know?
Okay, so she's on a spiritual quest.
Yeah, you could say that. She wants to have these visionary experiences, like Nephi.
So she wants to see beyond the veil, to understand the mysteries of the universe.
Exactly. And Nephi helps her on her quest, too.
Oh, really? How?
Well, he shares his knowledge of certain sacred plants
Oh.
that can facilitate these kinds of visions.
Interesting. So it's not just about prayer or meditation. There's this element of using natural elements to enhance spiritual experiences.
Exactly. That's one of the really unique aspects of this book, you know?
Yeah.
It blends traditional spiritual practices with this deep reverence for the natural world.
I love that.
So Nephi gives Shemnon this special fruit
Okay.
and instructs her on how to use it to connect with the spiritual realm.
What happens? Does she have a vision?
She does. She partakes of the fruit
Uh-huh.
and has her first vision,
Okay.
but it's not exactly what she expected.
Oh, what happens?
Well, she finds herself in this vast hall,
Okay.
but she can't really see clearly. You know, it's like she's only getting this tiny glimpse.
Right.
And then she encounters this mysterious guide
Okay.
who tells her she hasn't consumed enough of the fruit
Oh,
to fully experience the celestial realm.
it's like there are levels to these visions, like a spiritual video game.
That's a good way to put it.
So what does she do next? Does she try again?
Well, that's where things get a bit tricky.
Okay, you're killing me with the suspense.
She found herself in this vast hall,
Uh-huh.
but she couldn't quite see everything clearly.
Right, it was like she was just scratching the surface.
Exactly. And this is where her impatience kind of gets the best of her.
Oh, no. What did she do?
Instead of, listening to Nephi's advice
Yeah.
to go slow and have someone guide her,
Okay.
she decides to go it alone.
Uh-oh. That's usually not a good sign.
It's not.
So what happens?
Well, she finds this patch of the sacred fruit growing wild
Okay.
and decides to eat a whole bunch of it.
Whoa. Like way more than before.
Yeah, way more.
Why?
She's hoping to force a more powerful vision,
Oh, I see. Like if a little bit is good, a lot must be amazing.
Exactly. But it backfires.
Ah, the classic too much of a good thing scenario.
Right.
So what happens to her?
Instead of ascending to, the celestial realm, she gets plunged into this abyss.
Whoa, like a spiritual freefall?
Yeah, kinda.
So what's it like down there?
Well, she's bombarded by all these negative voices
Yikes.
and tormented by memories of her past mistakes,
That sounds awful. So it's like a psychological trial, a dark night of the soul?
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty harrowing experience.
I can imagine.
And it's a reminder, I think, that even on a spiritual path,
Right.
there can be real dangers,
Right. Especially when we try to rush the process.
Exactly. Or when we try to bypass the wisdom of those who've, been there before.
So does Shemnon make it out of this abyss?
She does, but just barely.
Wow. What happened?
At the, brink of despair,
Yeah.
she cries out for help.
Okay.
And this divine voice intervenes,
Okay.
guiding her back to safety.
Wow. That was a close one.
It was.
Yep.
And the voice reminds her
Yeah.
to seek Nephi's guidance.
So she learns a valuable lesson about humility
She does.
and respecting the power of these sacred practices.
Definitely.
Does she give up on her quest for visions after this?
No, actually. She's even more determined to connect with the divine.
All right.
But this time, she approaches it with a lot more respect,
Yeah, I bet. After that harrowing experience, she's probably a bit more cautious.
Totally. So she spends a whole year in reflection.
Okay.
Really working through the trauma of that negative vision.
Right.
And deepening her understanding of what Nephi taught her.
So after that year of introspection, she decides to try again.
She does.
Okay, tell us about it. Is this vision more successful?
This time, it's beautiful.
Okay.
She's led through this doorway into a breathtaking celestial realm.
Whoa. What's it like?
Think vibrant colors, swirling energy, and like this profound peace.
That sounds incredible.
It is.
And who does she meet there?
She encounters this radiant being who reveals herself as Asherah, the Heavenly Mother.
Whoa, the Heavenly Mother. We don't hear much about her in traditional scriptures, do we?
Not really. And that's what makes this part of the Book of Lavens so groundbreaking,
Right. It's like a major departure from traditional Mormon theology, which is always focused on the Heavenly Father. So what does Shemnon learn from Asherah? What's the significance of this encounter?
Well, Asherah shows her the vastness of the cosmos.
Okay.
The intricate interconnectedness of all things.
Wow.
And assures her that humanity is part of something so much bigger than we can even imagine.
It's like a mind-blowing expansion of her understanding of the universe and her place in it.
Totally.
Does she get to ask Asherah any questions?
Well, she does. She's filled with questions.
Right.
About the origins of the universe.
Okay.
The nature of the divine. Humanity's purpose.
Right.
The whole shebang.
Big questions.
Yeah, but Asherah tells her
that
those answers will be revealed in time,
Okay, so she has to be patient.
Exactly. She needs to keep seeking.
It's like a cosmic teaser trailer.
It is.
But does Shemnon have to wait a long time for those answers?
Well, 40 days later,
Okay.
under Nephi's guidance again, she partakes of some sacred herbs.
Okay.
And enters another vision.
All right, tell us about it. This one has to be good, right?
This time, she finds herself in this cozy cabin.
Okay.
Sitting by a warm fire with Asherah.
I love that image. The Heavenly Mother in a casual, approachable setting.
It is, right?
It makes her seem much more relatable.
Totally. And in this setting,
Yeah.
Asherah reveals some mind-blowing truths about the cosmos.
What kind of truth?
Well, she explains the workings of the Council of Kolob.
Okay, for those of us who aren't familiar with Mormon cosmology, can you explain what that is?
Of course. In Mormonism, Kolob is this star or planet that's closest to God's throne.
Okay.
It represents divine power and intelligence.
Got it.
The Council of Kolob is this gathering of super high-ranking divine beings who govern the universe.
So like a cosmic board meeting?
Pretty much, yeah.
I love it.
So the Book of the Lavens takes this concept and expands on it.
Okay, how so?
Asherah explains that she and the other Elohim chose to become mortal as part of this grand experiment in love and creation.
So they weren't always just these distant divine figures. They actually experienced life as humans.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a huge reframing of the creation story. It puts the Heavenly Mother right at the center of everything.
Right.
It's incredible.
It is.
But if the Heavenly Mother was so involved in creation, why haven't we heard more about her?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what Shemnon asks.
What does Asherah say?
Well, her answer is pretty heartbreaking, honestly.
Oh, no. What does she say?
She reveals that her worship, along with that of the other Elohim, was intentionally suppressed.
By whom?
By a power-hungry king named Josiah.
Josiah, okay.
Yeah, he wanted to centralize religious authority.
Right, so he wanted all the power for himself.
Exactly. And so he rewrote history to make himself look good.
Wow, it's a story we see repeated throughout history, isn't it? People in power trying to control the narrative.
Yeah. And the Asherah explains that Josiah distorted scriptures to eliminate her presence.
So it's not just about forgetting the Heavenly Mother, it's about actively erasing her from the story.
Exactly. And she tells Shemnon that it's time for this truth to come out.
Right, for people to remember their divine heritage.
Yeah.
To embrace a more complete understanding of the divine, both masculine and feminine.
Exactly. And she gives Shemnon specific instructions.
What kind of instructions?
On how to cultivate a special fruit.
Is this the same fruit that Nephi gave her earlier?
Yep, the same one.
And what's so special about this fruit?
It can help others connect with the divine
Okay.
and experience their own visions.
So it's not just about personal enlightenment for Shemnon. It's about sharing this knowledge and helping others awaken to the presence of the Heavenly Mother.
Exactly.
This is getting good. So what happens next?
Well, Shemnon has another vision.
Okay, tell me about it.
This time, she sees a devastated land.
Like, destroyed.
Yeah, totally ravaged by earthquakes and fires.
Oh, no. What happened?
She encounters Asherah again, and Asherah explains that this destruction is a consequence of ignoring the prophecy of Samuel the Lamanite.
Samuel the Lamanite. Oh, yeah. He's that prophet who warned the Nephites about their wickedness, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
And he foretold the signs of Christ's birth.
Right, exactly. But he also prophesied that a Laven prophetess would arise,
Okay.
and that she would warn her people about these impending disasters.
Interesting. And did that happen?
Well, kinda.
What do you mean?
See, Samuel also warned that if the prophetess was expelled from the Nephites,
Yeah.
fewer people would listen to her warnings.
Oh, no.
And that's exactly what happened.
They didn't listen to Samuel.
Nope. And they ostracized the Lavens.
And that's why this devastation happened.
Exactly. It's like a chilling reminder of what happens when we don't listen to those who challenge the status quo.
It is a powerful message about the consequences of intolerance and the importance of, paying attention to those voices that are often marginalized.
It is. And here's the big reveal. Asherah tells Shemnon that she is that prophetess.
Whoa. Talk about a destiny reveal.
Right.
So does Shemnon warn the Nephites?
She remembers her vision
Okay.
and immediately runs through the Lavenite Zion,
Okay.
calling for everyone to gather at the temple for safety.
Do they listen to her?
They do. They trust her.
Uh-huh.
And because of that,
Yeah.
they're spared from the destruction.
Wow, that's amazing. So even though they've been ostracized, they still managed to survive because they listened to the prophetess and heed her warnings.
Exactly. It speaks to the power of community
Yeah.
and trust,
Right. They have each other's backs even when the rest of the world turns against them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, after the earthquake subsides, an angel appears
Okay.
and instructs the Lavens to go to the temple in Bountiful,
Wait, the same temple where Christ appeared to the Nephites?
the one and only.
That's a pretty significant location.
It is, right? It's where heaven and earth kind of meet,
Yeah, it's where these divine encounters have happened throughout history.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens when they get to the temple?
Well, the book shifts perspective here,
Okay.
and we get to experience the story through the eyes of Kumenonhi.
Kumenonhi. Okay.
Yeah.
Who are they?
They're a young Laven disciple
Okay.
whose identity is, they don't really fit into the traditional categories of male and female.
Oh, I see. So, they're non-binary, as we might say today.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay, so what does Kumenonhi see at the temple?
Well, they arrive at the temple,
Yeah.
and it's not just the Lavens who are there.
Oh, really? Who else is there?
Representatives from all the Nephite and Lamanite tribes
Oh.
have also been summoned.
So everyone's coming together, even after all that's happened.
Yeah, it seems like it.
That's remarkable.
It really is.
Okay, so what happens when everyone's gathered at the temple?
A voice booms down from heaven
Whoa.
and reminds everyone
Uh-huh.
that there's only one God,
Yeah.
one shepherd tending to all the flocks.
That's like a call for unity,
Holy.
especially after all the divisions and conflicts that have been happening.
Exactly. It's a powerful message of reconciliation.
So what happens next?
Well, in a truly dramatic moment, Christ himself appears.
No way.
Yeah.
At the temple, in front of all the tribes?
He descends from heaven
Uh-huh.
in this blaze of glory.
Wow, that's
He
incredible.
invites everyone to touch his wounds.
Really?
Yeah.
To see for themselves.
Yeah.
That he's real, that
Yeah.
he suffered and overcame death.
It's a powerful moment,
It really is.
especially seen through Kumenonhi's eyes,
Right,
who's, the young Laven disciple
right.
who challenges
Yeah.
those traditional norms.
It's so cool that the book chooses to focus on this moment through their perspective.
It is, right?
So how does Kumenonhi react to seeing Christ?
They're overwhelmed with awe and gratitude.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they feel a sense of connection
Okay.
to Christ
Yeah.
and to all the people gathered there.
It's like a moment of true spiritual unity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Christ does something really unexpected.
What does he do?
He calls forth Nephi, the Laven man who led his people to safety, and gives him a special mission.
What kind of mission?
He tells him to add Samuel the Lamanite's account to the Nephite records.
Samuel the Lamanite, the one who was rejected by the Nephites.
The one and only.
But his story was basically erased from their history.
Exactly. And by instructing Nephi to include his account, Christ is essentially reclaiming his voice.
Wow, that's a huge statement.
It is. And it's a powerful message about the importance of honoring those marginalized voices.
So after this, does Christ, go back to heaven?
Not yet. First, he does something else really cool.
What's that?
He opens the floor to questions. He invites all the disciples to share their doubts and fears and hopes.
I love that. It's not just a one-way sermon. He's inviting them into a real dialogue, a real exchange of ideas. So what kind of questions do they ask?
Well, Kumenonhi steps forward.
Okay.
Remember, they're young, still figuring out their identity.
Right.
And they ask Christ, how may I truly know myself when I am told by many that I am too young to understand such things?
That's such a powerful question.
It is, right?
It's a question that so many young people struggle with, especially those who are, questioning their gender identity or sexual orientation.
Exactly. And Christ's response is so beautiful.
What does he say?
He tells this simple parable.
Okay.
About a purple rose that blooms in a garden of red and white roses.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. What's the parable about?
The other roses think the purple roses gonna change,
Right.
as it grows,
Yeah.
that it'll eventually conform
Right.
and become red or white like them.
Yeah.
But Eve, the mother of all living, comes into the garden
Okay.
and she tells all the roses,
Yeah.
each of you is beautiful in your own way.
Uh,
Do not try to be something you are not. Embrace the beauty that lies within you.
What a powerful message. It's like he's saying, you are perfect as you are.
Exactly. It's about embracing those who are different.
Right. Those who don't fit neatly into those predefined categories.
Yeah.
I love that. So Christ affirms Kumenonhi's identity through this beautiful parable. Are there other disciples who come forward?
Yes. Isaiah, another disciple,
Okay.
approaches Christ
Okay.
and reveals that he was assigned female at birth, but identifies as male.
So Isaiah is transgender.
Exactly.
That's another story we rarely hear represented in, traditional religious texts.
I know, right?
So what happens? What does Isaiah ask Christ?
He asks him what he must do to become a man.
And how does Christ respond to that?
Christ's response is so powerful.
Okay.
He says to him,
Yeah.
go forth, for you are already that which you seek to become.
Wow.
Your spirit knows its truth,
Right.
and I see you as you truly are.
That's incredible. He's affirming Isaiah's identity without hesitation.
Exactly.
It's recognizing that Isaiah's true self, his male identity, is already present.
Yeah, there's no need to prove it or earn it or anything.
It's just there.
It is.
It's beautiful.
It is.
So Kumenonhi and Isaiah
Yeah.
both received this affirmation from Christ.
Right.
Does anyone else share their story?
Yes. Shemnon steps forward, the woman who cultivated that sacred fruit and had the visions of the Heavenly Mother.
Okay, yeah.
And she shares that she was raised as male,
Okay.
but she knows she's meant to be female.
Right.
And she asks Christ, why would my life be worth remembering if I am not what others believe I should be?
That's such a raw and honest question. It sounds like she's questioning her purpose.
Yeah, I mean, can you blame her?
No.
She's faced so much persecution
Yeah.
just for being herself.
Right. So how does Christ respond to her?
It's profound.
Okay.
He reminds her about the creation story.
Uh-huh.
You know how the Elohim shaped the world and saw that it was good?
Yes.
He says that it's just like her own journey of self-discovery.
Oh, I see. He's connecting her personal transformation to the act of divine creation.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
And he tells her that her story will inspire others
Uh-huh.
to embrace their true selves
Yeah.
and to break free from those societal expectations.
It's such a powerful affirmation of her journey. It's saying that her act of self-creation is a sacred act.
It is.
Yeah.
And he goes on to tell her that her life has so much value
Yeah.
and that her journey is a testament to the transformative power of love and authenticity.
It's amazing how Christ addresses each disciple's concerns with such love and understanding.
It is.
It's such a powerful message of inclusion.
It is.
Does anyone else come forward?
Yes, 3 disciples, Mathoni, Mathonha, and Kumen, step forward together,
Okay.
and they reveal that they're in a polyamorous relationship.
Whoa, so it's a committed, loving partnership between all three of them.
Yep.
Okay, now this is really pushing boundaries, even for the Lavens. So they're asking Christ about their three-way relationship.
They are.
I'm on the edge of my seat here. What does Christ say?
Well, Mathoni expresses some concern,
Yeah, I bet.
because Jacob, the Nephite prophet, had condemned polygamy.
Right.
But Christ clarifies that Jacob was specifically talking about men taking multiple wives without their consent.
So he wasn't talking about loving consensual relationships. He was talking about power and control.
Yeah.
That's a pretty radical reinterpretation of traditional teachings on marriage.
It is.
So is Christ okay with their relationship?
He totally is.
What does he say?
He says that the point of life is to find joy.
Yeah.
And he can see that joy radiating from the three of them.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It is.
So he's basically saying that it's not about the number of people in a relationship. It's about the love and commitment they share.
Exactly.
I love
It
that.
challenges us to really rethink our assumptions about relationships and family.
It does.
Yeah.
So Christ has addressed all these questions about identity and relationships and the nature of the divine. What happens next?
He introduces this new sacrament.
A sacrament, like a sacred ritual or ceremony?
Yeah.
What kind of sacrament?
He instructs the disciples to take bread and wine
Okay.
that have been infused with the sacred fruit.
Oh, the fruits that Shemnon cultivated.
The very same.
So by partaking of this sacrament, they'll be able to connect with the divine in a deeper way.
Exactly. Christ explains that it will enhance their spiritual experiences,
Okay.
allow them to see these amazing visions,
Uh-huh.
to dream dreams
Right.
and prophesy.
Wow. It sounds powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
But he warns them that not everyone is ready for that kind of intense experience.
Right. It's not something to be taken lightly.
Exactly.
So then what happens?
Christ performs the first communion with this bread and wine
Okay.
and invites the disciples to partake.
And what happens after they partake?
Oh my gosh. It's intense.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me what happens.
This rushing wind comes down from heaven.
Okay.
The sky opens up,
Whoa.
and they see this display of celestial wonders.
What do they see?
Kumenonhi talks about brilliant lights dancing across the sky,
Okay.
hearing the waves singing this heavenly melody
Wow.
and feeling the earth pulsating with this divine energy.
It sounds like a spiritual rave.
Right. And angels descend and mingle with them.
Wow. And do they see God?
They catch a glimpse of the one
Okay.
who is present in all things,
Yeah.
the source of all creation.
It sounds like an overwhelming experience of unity and connection.
It is. But this intense spiritual immersion
Yeah.
takes its toll,
Yeah, I can imagine.
The next day, many of the disciples are exhausted.
Right. It's like a spiritual hangover.
Totally. So once they've rested,
Okay.
Christ gathers the 12 Lavens,
Okay.
the ones who have emerged as the leaders of the community,
Right.
and he ordains them
Okay.
as teachers and spiritual guides.
So he's empowering them to carry on his teachings,
Exactly.
to build a community based on love and inclusion.
Yeah, and deeper understanding of the divine.
And then what happens?
Well, Christ offers them a choice.
What kind of choice?
They can live out their natural lives
Okay.
and then return to heaven,
Uh-huh.
or they can choose to remain on earth
Whoa.
indefinitely, helping others find their way to him.
That's a big decision.
It is.
What do they choose?
9 of the disciples choose to live out their mortal lives,
Okay.
experience all of that,
Yeah.
and then return to the celestial realm.
Right.
But Mathoni, and Kumen,
The polyamorous trio.
yeah, they choose to remain on earth.
Wow, they're dedicating their lives to serving humanity.
They are.
It's like they become these guardian angels
Yeah.
watching over us, guiding us toward a better future.
Exactly.
I love that. So what happens to Mathoni, and Kumen?
Christ transforms them into ministering angels.
Whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah, he grants them immortality and the ability to perform miracles.
So they become these powerful beings of light, continuing Christ's work here on earth.
They do.
What a beautiful image.
It is.
Okay, so then what happens?
Christ ascends to heaven,
Okay.
and the disciples are left to carry on his work.
So what do they do? How do they build this new community?
Well, inspired by everything that happened, Yeah. The 12 Lavens create these 7 sermons.
7 sermons.
Yep.
Okay, what are they about?
They cover, a lot of topics.
Like what?
Spiritual practices, social justice,
Okay.
environmental stewardship.
Okay, like a blueprint for their society.
Yeah, pretty much.
So are there
Yeah.
any that stand out?
Yeah, there are 2 that really offer a radical vision for how they're going to structure their community.
Oh.
One is about economic justice,
Okay.
and the other reimagines the whole concept of priesthood.
Okay, I am so intrigued. Tell me more about these sermons.
So the first one, about economic justice, tackles the wealth disparity head on, you know?
Yeah, they've seen firsthand how unfair it is when all the wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few.
Exactly.
So what do they propose?
They come up with this radical idea: shared labor and a redistribution of wealth.
Whoa, that's bold. So, like, no more private property, everyone shares everything.
Not exactly. It's
Yeah.
more nuanced than that. They argue that the Earth's resources belong to everyone
Yeah, I like that.
and that no one should have to live in poverty,
Right.
while others hoard way more than they need.
So what's their solution?
They create this system where everyone contributes
Okay.
according to what they can do,
Yeah.
and then they receive what they need.
It's like that saying, from each according to their ability to each according to their need.
Exactly. It's a vision of a society where we take care of each other,
Yeah,
where everyone's well-being is interconnected.
that's beautiful. Okay, so what about the second sermon, the one that reimagines priesthood?
Yeah, so in this one, they say that authority shouldn't be based on, like, family lineage
Right.
or social status.
Right, it's not about who you're related to or how much money you have.
Exactly. Instead, they argue that priesthood should be open to anyone who demonstrates three things:
What are they?
moral authority,
Okay.
spiritual authority,
Okay.
and competency.
Okay, break those down for me. What do those things mean in practice?
Okay, so moral authority means living a life of integrity, compassion, and service,
Yeah,
putting others before yourself.
got it. What about spiritual authority?
That's about cultivating a connection to the divine.
Okay, nurturing your own spiritual growth
Exactly.
and helping others do the same.
Yep.
Okay, and what about competency?
That's about, developing knowledge and skills
Right.
that benefit the community.
So it's about being qualified, not just entitled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a completely different way of thinking about leadership.
And it's much more inclusive.
Totally. It opens up leadership roles to women,
Yeah,
to people of color,
right.
to people who don't fit those rigid gender norms.
It's pretty radical.
It is.
So the Lavens built their society on these principles of economic justice, shared leadership, and spiritual growth. Did it work? Did their community thrive?
Well, that's where the Book of the Lavens leaves us with a bit of a mystery.
Oh, no, don't tell me it's another cliffhanger.
Kinda. Kumen, remember?
Okay.
One of the three disciples who chose immortality.
Right.
Kumen tells us that there's still so much more to their story.
Like there are more teachings and experiences that weren't recorded.
Exactly.
Like this lost library of wisdom just waiting to be discovered.
Yeah. And Kumen says they hope those lost teachings will one day be found and shared with the world.
Well, until then, we have this incredible story of resilience, faith, and a radical vision for a more just and equitable world. It really challenges us to think differently about spirituality, about community, and about what it means to be human.
It really does.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the Book of the Lavens. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure exploring this book with you.
And to our listeners, if you're interested in learning more, I encourage you to seek out the Book of the Lavens and see what resonates with you.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.